Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. There he is. Dratini, dickholes. Woo! Oh, man. 472. Don't be like that. Just get in the ball. Won't have to kill you. Gotcha. Oh, I'm only at 36 Dratini candy.
I'm at 16. I mean, I evolved the Dragonair.
So why? That's so bad.
I wanted the 1000 XP. Or the 2000 XP technically, the first time hatched it. Or first time in the decks.
1,000?
Yeah, you get 1,000 for the evolution and 1,000 for the Pokedex entry if you have a lucky egg on.
Oh, you guys ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I was already doing a bunch of Pidgey evolution on a lucky egg, and then I had to change it. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, let's just get it.
I guess, but man, I don't. Who caught 10 dragon Pokemon? Nice. Man, I never evolved anything. Just in case, until I have like enough for the first stage and the second stage evolution.
That's what I just did with my Poliwrath.
Yeah. Just never know when you find that happenstance war turtle.
Just super big, or like right there. Like I mean, obviously it's different with Slowpoke and Slowbro, but like as soon as I evolve my Slowpoke, the very next one is bigger.
At least don't evolve until you leave here. Leave the Safari Zone.
So yeah.
Oh man. So on this episode of Gaming Talk with Callie and Chris.
That's basically what these have become. We're gonna have special guest Nate with us today, possibly.
Special guest, yeah, right.
What can we call this? Let's call this like the Gamers Lounge. Lazy Boy Gaming.
Dicks on the couch.
Dicks on the couch. I like it.
You know what?
Dicks and or vaginas sometimes on the couch.
Let's be honest, there's no vaginas on this couch ever.
Yeah.
I am gonna change though, so I get to carry the show.
You're gonna do it on camera? It's gonna be exciting. We're gonna get some great ratings.
Yeah.
That'll get more people to finally start watching. Or kill off the last people up. Whichever comes first.
I don't know if you realize this.
Dude, no, you have to change out here because there's a giant ferry boat, and I hope that one of them's watching us through the window.
Okay, well, spoilers alert, they can't see through here.
Oh. No, that sucks.
Fuck you, fairies.
Yeah, what the hell's with the ferry? Oh, it's got a Canadian flag on the front.
Oh, those fucking Canadians.
They're in our. This is our side of the river. They can't be over here.
No, there's a American flag at the back.
Oh, okay. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Alright, have fun. Oh, seriously. This week has been insane. Like between the prepping for the new show and getting these 2 episodes like on the air too, like this week has been nuts. It has been so draining. I am so looking forward to just like a regular week this week. It's like it's not like you're like putting in crazy hours or anything, but it's just like mentally draining. Right?
What?
When 3 shows in a week is mentally draining.
Yeah.
So
Oh my god, dude, exhausting.
Yeah, like I was thinking like between doing FFFL on Sunday and Tuesday and the news update and the esports update for the other shows, like shit, by sometimes Sunday rolls around, I'm like, I can't wait just to get in the room and talk.
Yeah.
Just turn my brain off and talk.
Yeah, that's true. And
The shows become the easy part.
kind of, yeah. I mean, that's the whole idea of show prep, because if you're sussing that out on the air live as you go, you can tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you do the pre-production so that you come armed with a lot of things to say, which we did today, clearly.
Right. Well, I mean, for as much as like our show a lot of the time is like we have a kind of a vaguer outline and we just go with what works.
Yeah.
We have the research put in the background that that lets us like no matter where the conversation goes, we're prepared for it, and that's the work. Is being prepared no matter where that conversation ends up. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm pretty pooped.
Yeah. I'm gonna go home tonight. I know one of my friends wanted me to go hang out tonight, but I'm going home tonight. I'm going to turn my phone off and just like not have my phone on. I haven't done that. I can't remember the last time I didn't have my phone turned on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a night without my phone on tonight. I'm just going to like lounge on the couch, maybe hang out with my brother for a bit.
Right on.
That's my plan.
I think it's a dumb plan.
It's the best plan you've ever heard, and you love it.
I don't know what it was.
So, Nate, welcome to Dicks on the Couch with Juxta and Callie.
Yep.
Special guest host Nate today.
Yeah, this is the first time that I've gotten to hang out for the post show in a while.
Right?
You're welcome to be present.
Well, I get to run in and check in on the post show every so
That was
often.
fun.
Make sure they're not.
I'm kind of hyped though that they were up for doing it by themselves.
Yeah, me too. Actually,
That's
I
awesome.
think that's great.
Yeah.
It's really encouraging. Oh, I have a headache.
Yeah.
I have a really solidified headache.
Well, we're gonna try and probably keep it brief tonight and get home.
I just put on briefs.
Well done. I didn't need to know about it, but thank you.
You're blue.
All right, so what did you guys think of the shows today?
I think they went really good.
You don't think that we got too negative overall? Because, I mean, that was a lot of the feedback that we were getting in chat. Not that we shy away from any of that stuff, but...
I think the only reason it felt that way is because it was coming off LBR, which had a lot of negativity, into FEC, which had a lot more.
Maybe.
I feel like doing two shows
I was seeing people who I normally don't see either on FEC or LBR saying that it was really negative. Not again. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that that's off base. Like it was. It was really negative, and I think that I am very negative about my outlook for 15.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's unjustified. I mean, every skeptical, I think I made some real good points. I think I backed up my skepticism with as much, as much anecdotal evidence and objective evidence as I could muster.
Right. I think what might rub some people wrong is I don't want to say hostility, but like, when people are excited for it, you really don't like that. Or that's how it comes across.
Well, I don't.
Right.
That's the thing is that I don't, because a lot of it I chalk up to buying into marketing. And if there's anything that I don't buy into in my entire life, it's fucking marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why people like our marketing or like our brand, because we do like anti-marketing. We do stuff that like shouldn't, like our version of marketing is like, how do we fuck with our audience instead of, or how do we adjust their expectations of us and the show that they're coming to enjoy? How do we push those expectations farther? And it feels like there is no willingness to be creative or to embrace creativity and to embrace possible failure. Most of these games are failing because they're failing to innovate and they're failing to do something different from what the rest of everyone else is doing. And I think that is the thing that frustrates me the most, because when you have a game that comes in, innovates even slightly like Dark Souls did 8 years ago, and you have you've got a new whole franchise to be able to but it was contingent on them taking a chance and going, we may make a game that produces no money.
Mm-hmm.
But they, like, that's why I say like Kojima is in one of those positions where, like, he's in a position where he doesn't really have to prove himself.
And that's the thing, like, I feel like the gaming industry has weeded people like him out.
I agree.
It's like
a rough edge that the gaming industry has buffed out again and again and again, and I don't like that.
If someone at FF15 said, "Hey, I want to go this really bold direction with it," they'd have a new director. Like they wouldn't let him do it. That's what worries me. I see things like that happen. I think everything becomes samey because that's what the studios want.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have
because they like
Kojima had the pull and the respect of gamers and of companies to be able to say, this is my vision, this is what we're going to do. Whereas most people would be like, hey, this is my vision, this is what we're going to do. They're like, that's interesting, we're going to go in another direction, here's your paycheck, goodbye.
Yeah.
And like, so I mean, on one hand, like, I feel bad for directors of games who probably are hamstrung. There's I can't do anything.
Absolutely.
The hell hell am I supposed and then they have to go out and just try to market their game and say like, I can't come out and say, hey, my game sucks, because my name's tied to it. And if I come out and say my game sucks, I'm never getting hired again everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm losing my job.
Yeah, that's it for me. Like, I feel in so many ways directors of games are super hamstrung, and it sucks.
I think you're right.
I don't know what it takes to fix it, except what it takes to fix it is something we touched on last week, is that these AAA companies are going to be the ones that have to fail for new AAA companies to rise up, and it'll be the new ones that do. We might see the death of Square Enix.
Yeah, but except, like, you would think that the companies who would be best primed to be in that position are the ones who are indies now. And going back to No Man's Sky, I mean, it's not like you can trust the indies any more or less than you can trust the AAAs.
No Man's Sky is such a classic example of overpromising and underdelivering. Like,
oh god, dude! Every comparison that guy has had to Peter Molyneux is absolutely justified, given the amount of shit that he spun around that game.
Yup.
And it makes me mad because, again, it makes it less believable when people go to the well. You know what I mean? Like, when people try to go to the well to get people hyped for something, there's going to be less willingness to suspend disbelief and go, oh, well, this could be good.
That's like things like when Undertale happens, there was no hype for Undertale before it came out.
Thank you!
It was after it came out.
Exactly!
Like, people knew it was coming, but after it came out is when it blew up.
Right!
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of where it's gotten.
Do you think we're on like the road to another big video game crash, like in
Crash, no, but I think shift, yes. I think the model's gonna have to change eventually.
I don't know. Well, I mean, because you are seeing these big AAA titles not meeting projected sales marks because the sales marks have been pushed so high because of the cost to develop the game.
Right.
So when you have those factors, unless you push the cost of the game down or you start moving more units, your metric for success becomes unattainable. Your basic lowest common denominator for success becomes unattainable.
What is it?
No, that's you. Lowest coming down.
Oh, okay. You were holding Pokemon Go. I'm like, ooh, what popped?
Oh, Stardew.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, I mean, but we've talked about that for a long time. Like, it blows my mind that $59.99 is still the like standard sales point for a game. $69.99 was what I paid for like my Nintendo 64 games in the late '90s, or $59.99. Like, I can't believe those prices haven't gone up. I think that like if let me put it this way to you. We complain about DLC being core elements of a game that are stripped out and sold separately. If we saw games that, if the new accepted MSRP was $79.99, but we saw a lot of that start disappearing, I would be fine with that. I don't have a problem with an MSRP going up over the course of like 20 years. Like, I would expect it to. It's weird to me that it still is the same price. Like, I'm pretty sure I paid $59.99 for Super Smash Brothers. How am I still paying that price today?
I mean, you paid $50 for Super Nintendo games and Nintendo games back in the day. Like, I paid $49. My mom paid $49 for Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
When it came
Yeah,
out.
I'm pretty sure that I paid, like my parents paid $50 for Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
That's what has led me to believe that maybe this is where the DLC changes are coming, where the expected, like, they're saying the market, for whatever reason, gamers will not accept us upping the MSRP, so we have to strip content. Maybe that's where it is. I don't know. I feel like, don't you kind of like think that at some point we're going to have to accept an up in the standard accepted MSRP if you want to continue getting more content?
Except we're never going to get DLC out of the...
Yeah, unfortunately it may be a Pandora's box where you can't shut it again. I don't know if you'll be able to, unless
It would take like an anti-DLC consumer movement to say we reject the notion of DLC.
Yeah.
Gamers are awful about movements.
just about
Right. You're they really are. They're really terrible about movements. I mean, the number of people that would sit and endlessly bray on about how Gamergate is a movement, just, ugh.
guys, you have to move for it to be a movement.
You have to do something. I don't know.
I mean, I just remember like some FPS game like Modern Warfare or Call of Duty or something. Everyone was all up in arms about it. There's like a Steam group made about, it's like, join this group to show that you're never gonna play this game and not buy it on Steam. And then like the day of, like 90% of the people are playing the game that the Steam group is like not playing. It's like,
The market is going to have to shift at some point. What is currently going on in the game market, I don't think is sustainable. Like, it's going to come to a head, but the question is it going to be in the form of a crash or a major new innovation that shifts it?
Look, and I mean, I don't think that there's anything even the industry can do at this point to take away the number of gamers, like the potential audience, right? Like, I don't think that there's anything that can be so bad that makes me go, I'm done with video games. Like, bro, that was it. I'm never
Not going to
do
be
it.
an ET of this go around.
Well, but like, because we have so much history to be able to rely on, it's like, well, okay, if there's nothing good out now, I'll just play a game that I never got to.
There's plenty of a library I can go back and keep me occupied for the next 10
Yes,
years.
and that's the thing, is that we're not going to leave being interested in video games, but like, I mean, I feel like the industry's seeing definitely diminishing returns with the older segments of its generation, and this just goes back to what we had talked about a couple of months ago, and who is going to be the company that recognizes that there's a growing potential audience in the older spectrum of gamers and starts catering to the needs or desires of that fan base, whether it be a more nuanced and better written story, or whether it be slower gameplay design to be able to compensate for physical restrictions. Like, there is an aging gamer population that someone has to recognize the value in that audience to be able to hit at it. And once they do, I think that they're really going to tap into something. Because look at the way that games have sort of grown up with us, and the way that externally, you know, like the way that look at what we consume that's related to video games now. I buy a lot of clothing that is like tangentially related or subtly related to some kind of game, right? Like, it's never a direct, like, hey, it's a Nintendo controller on my t-shirt, but it's like a cool stylized dude from a game, or, you know, a logo or something like that. And I feel like I'm not alone. Like, a lot of us our age look for items like that. Like, we don't buy, you know, our focus has shifted from buying figurines of you know, game titles that we like, and instead we look for shirts or hats or other things.
My favorite thing, like my Aperture Laboratory shirt.
Yes,
things
exactly.
Like that, yeah.
Right, exactly. So how does that, I mean, what does that end up saying about the potential audience that you're marketing towards? That we are aging, that we are growing up, and that we are maturing, and that continuing to focus on a younger audience, you're not necessarily going to see a overall reduction in your audience, but that there is going to be a growing dissatisfaction with a certain type of development or a certain type of game, that another company can come in, recognize that vacuum of desire that exists there, and place their product squarely in the interests of that segment, and say, look, if you're 12 years old and trying to play this, you're probably not going to have a good time, and you know what? Fine.
Here's what I'm worried about, that company will never be Square Enix.
Nope.
They will never be the
Oh,
ones
why
to look
would
at
you
that.
ever think that it would be?
It won't be. There's no
I mean,
way.
like, it made me sad to really pose that question, can they make a good game anymore?
And here's
it's a sombering thought.
And really, like, the question, it's a half question, is can they make a good game for someone like us at this point? Because I'll bet you there'll be tons of people, no matter what 15 looks like, where they'll think, you know what, this is fine. People did like 13. Like, we hated it, but it sold a lot. And its sequels sold a lot.
I know I'm a troll, and you guys think I'm trolling when I say it, but I don't think 13 is as bad as everyone says.
I beat 13.
I like 13. I don't think it's not my favorite game.
No.
I'm not sure if it's my least favorite game. I enjoyed the combat a lot in 13.
And I think there's a lot of people in the generation right behind us who did like 13. Like, I don't think like that there's any lack of people who liked those games, especially if you go outside the country. God, Japan loved that fucking game.
Yeah, for some reason.
But that, and maybe so that's what it's like. Maybe SC just looks at stuff like that and says like, you know what? Things like 12, 13, 15, like we're still selling plenty of copies of it, and there's an audience for it. Let's do it. And that's a kind of a depressing thought for us, where we're just like, what do we do about it? Like, we look at things like From Software, we're like, they make a game that interests us.
But again, well, what do you think From Software's benchmark for success? Like, how many units do they have to sell to make a successful game versus how many units does Square Enix have to sell to consider their game successful? I think that yardstick is much different for a company like From Software, who got their momentum by subverting the expectations of the gaming audience at large. At the time that Dark Souls came out, you had a lot of negative sentiment around extremely hard games. Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden. You guys remember how much people hated Ninja Gaiden, and even Dark Souls, how much they initially hated Dark Souls. A lot of people were really frustrated with Dark Souls when it first came out, and it had carried a bit of a reputation from Demon Souls, and it actually took the better part of a full year before I think the gaming community overall started to extol the virtues of Dark Souls. And it was really by streamers who got very good at the game that game saw a second shelf life. Now, when you consider that path to success and you compare it up against what Square Enix has been putting out, I think that you have a company in From Software that's much more willing to innovate, that is much more willing to look at something that could be a potential failure and go, nah, it is what it is, fuck it. And less like something that they have to band-aid and fix and patch over. A great example is in Dark Souls 2, the amount of flack that they got for item degradation. Because when you bump it up from between 30 and 60 FPS, for no reason, your items degrade twice as fast. and From Software was like, yeah, it's kind of a glitch, but we're not fixing it anyway, fuck it. You know, like, and I mean,
well, makes the game harder, keep it.
Some people complained about it, but other people were just like, yeah, all right, you know.
That seemed like, looking at Dark Souls versus like a modern day Final Fantasy, like, to me it just reeks of Final Fantasy or Square Enix. Every pitch they have for a game has to get past their board of investors. Whereas From Software was relatively unknown at the time of Dark Souls.
Yes.
And they're just like, hey, we're just a bunch of guys making a game. We're going to make this game that we like.
Exactly.
Who do they answer to?
Yes.
And that's the problem. When you answer to investors, you answer to investors.
Well, and I think you're hitting on something really interesting there, because I wonder if the Final Fantasy 15 devs have ever asked the question, is this fun? Is this a game that I want to play? Because in the end, I think, you know, when you're talking about an auteur, you know, someone like and I can't remember the driving force behind Dark Souls. I can't remember his name. But when you have someone like that, or you have Hideo Kojima, you know, like those forces, those creative forces, and what they're seeking to accomplish with their product, I think is so massively different than this, you know, design by committee approach that Square Enix has to seem. And what it seems to be is just like round off all the corners, make any of the peaks and valleys in this, take it away, because we want everyone to have a nice, pleasant experience with this. And I just, why do you need that for a game?
Well, and it kind of led me to wonder, what is the sweet spot in terms of a size for a gaming company? Because when you're too small, when you're real tiny, you're an indie company, you run into the issues that No Man's Sky saw, where you could, it's super easy to overpromise. When you get too big, now you're answering to a lot of people, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and you get the opposite problem, you get a watered down game. What is that sweet spot? I thought BioWare,
Bioshock.
Take-Two.
Oh, okay.
Take-Two and
right.
the Bioshock series.
Yeah.
Is that Take-Two? 2K games.
2K, yes, thank you.
2K.
Fuck.
God, it was driving me nuts. They had, at the time of those games, I thought just like the perfect synergy. It's like Ken Levine ran the show, it was his vision. the company was just large enough that he could keep things under thumb, and that people could still innovate enough, but within his scope.
Do you think BioShock Infinite may have shut down because of the success of BioShock and specifically Infinite?
Do I think he stopped after Infinite because of the success of it?
Yeah, because I feel like it's sort of like the Dave Chappelle thing, where like Dave Chappelle got so tired of being followed by his success and people constantly asking him to continue referencing bits that he had moved on from, that Ken Levine just made the decision like, yeah, this has run its course and I'm done.
At some point,
you have to have a respect for that.
What happened? So we will never know what actually happened. He'll never tell anyone, and Take-Two will probably never admit it either. But that whole departure and sudden shutdown of the BioShock series reeks of creative disagreement. Like Ken Levine had something he wanted done, and the studio wanted something else, and he said.
Same thing with Kojima. I mean, Kojima felt very much the same way.
The whole thing reeks of that. Like, I can't confirm it, I don't know, but if I had to guess,
I think that, it just sort of sparked this thought. But I mean, like, think of how many talented people have exited the video game industry within the last 5 years alone. I think that may be indicative of some of the very real expectations that these companies have.
And you say people who've left. I'm looking at people who leave and form a new company. Where they're like, I want somewhere where I can still have my creative control. I'm not doing this. I'm not answering to your
What did
investment
Ken Levine?
I don't know what he's doing now.
I thought he was doing a movie or something.
You might be right about that.
I thought he might have moved on to do some kind of movie. It was something different though. It's not a game.
I got the feeling like that there was an idea for another BioShock game that he wanted to do, like BioShock Infinite really kind of like tied up the mythos very nicely.
It really did, actually.
But I feel like he had an idea for like one more game, and that they wanted to make a full game out of, and he wouldn't have any of it, and that's why we got the Burial Sea DLC instead. We got a very shortened version of it, which Burial Sea is some of the best BioShock writing there is.
Is it really?
I would rate Burial Sea just under BioShock 1. Like, it's better than Infinite, and it's better than BioShock 2. I love BioShock 2.
Is it long enough to justify that comparison? I mean, like, how long is the DLC?
It's a 2-part DLC that I would say you could probably get through in like 7 or 8 hours. It's not long. That said, like the story...
I mean, granted, BioShock's not a terribly long game.
No, I mean, even BioShock 1's only like 20 hours.
Yeah.
That's
not bad, actually.
Yeah. The game itself is so... But, like, the story that it tells is so... Like, it picks up kind of, like, right off the heels of Infinite with dealing with the alternate universes and everything. And this is just a great, like, use of Rapture. Instead of, like, BioShock 1 takes place shortly after the Civil War happened and everything. This game takes place the night the Civil War breaks out.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting, and it's super good.
Does it, just in a general way, does it give you revelations on the first game, like, not a retcon, but like like a mystery that you've been kind of wondering about since the first game?
You will get to see what Frank Fontaine was like before he became Atlas.
You
will get to see a lot of Frank Fontaine in it. And you also get to see a bit more of Suchong, who developed the plasmids and the Big Daddy program down there. You get to see him, and you also find out in what ways he was working with, because you find out he was working with the lead scientist developer guy up in Columbia. One of the tears had opened up between Columbia and Rapture, and that's where Vigors came from. This guy found out about the plasmids down in Rapture and started stealing the ideas as Vigors. He developed a way to drink them rather than having to inject them in yourself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you get a lot of that too. Like, and I mean, it's got a lot of the problems that any DLC does, where like a lot of the areas seem kind of like reused particles and stuff like that. But the story is cool and the gameplay's fun. So, yeah, I was really, really happy with Burial Sea. Yeah. But yeah, it is so cool. Like when you see someone like Ken Levine who's just like, no, I told the story I wanted to tell. I'm done.
But I mean, and Ken Levine is one of the few people I think that has integrity left in this company or in this industry, and it's like, you know, when you watch someone like that exit of not of their, I mean, it's of their own free will too. They're just like, nah, fuck this.
They're not dealing with it anymore.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes for the environment that these people are having to work in.
Yeah,
It's really frustrating. I mean, I can tell you, working in media, having a bunch of fingers in the pie for creative decisions can be very frustrating.
Well, and I mean, can we talk about like how relieving it is, like hear what we do at LBR, where like if one of us has an idea that sounds ridiculous, usually the end result of that is, cool, how do we make that into a bit? How do we work that?
Yeah.
Like the creative freedom that we all have here is very like relieving.
Yeah.
It's very easy to work with. Like
right. Well, and I think also, you know, like our willingness to try stuff and our willingness to fail.
We're not afraid to put out one bad episode for the sake of trying something interesting.
Exactly. I mean, that whole Christmas special, Jesus.
Literally, we sat there with an episode and like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go on an hour late and show up one at a time and sing songs we've never rehearsed. It's just like, that could have been an unmitigated disaster.
Oh, it so easily could have. Oh my God, I still can't believe that we have pulled that off.
Yeah, for those who don't know, we were all there on time, pretty much, except Nika.
Yeah, we just waited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So funny.
Yeah, like exactly. That was such a. What show does that? Who tries that?
Not very many
It's
people.
like we just thought, hey, this might be good for a laugh. Let's go.
Well,
for it.
and that's the thing is, you know, and whenever we do stuff like that, there's of course always a handful of people in the chat room that are like, "This is fucking
It's
stupid.
a bit. Yeah, they know.
This is dumb. Oh, why do they do stuff like this?" You know, like, and we see that, and it's like, I feel like certain companies would look at that and they'd see the 4 negative comments and ignore the 17 like, this is hilarious.
That's what it's like. Like our show, we try to give a little something for everyone, but yeah, for every person who's like, this is stupid. There are people out there who think that when we do like just goofy ass shit and just like make stuff up, that it's our best work.
Yeah.
I'm of that opinion. I think our best stuff is when we're just making shit up off the top of our heads and just going. Like when we're like, hey, here's an idea for a bit, let's see how it goes. That's our best stuff, I feel like. And like obviously we can't do it every week. We'd burn out.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it every week.
Right. No, but I mean,
it's-
like, that used to be sort of like the spirit that, you know, media used to have. I mean, like, remember, television at one point put Mystery Science Theater 3000 on the air. This was a show that was 2 hours long and consisted of puppets making fun of movies. There is, you say the concept of the show out loud, and you go, why would anyone have put that on the air? And then you go, oh shit, it was on the air for 10 years?
My first thought is that a YouTube series or
Right.
something? That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like the most bizarre thing, but like, you know, like, there was this incredible, at one point, this incredible willingness to innovate, and even at a corporate entity like Comedy Central, at a corporate entity like CBS, you could try weird, off-the-wall things, and you didn't have to be a David Lynch to carry the clout to be able to do that shit either.
That's why it's nice. Like I think so many people have really warmed up to places like Netflix or HBO, where they still do off-the-wall weird shit.
Stranger Things.
I still haven't seen it. Everyone's
You
like, I
guys
have
gotta
to
see
watch
it.
it.
You guys gotta fucking watch it. Stranger Things is one of the most off-the-wall concepts that shouldn't work on paper that I've ever seen.
You know what? I said I'm
Ever
going home and turn
seen.
my phone off. I'm gonna watch that tonight. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yes, watch it. It's very, very good. I mean, especially because I know you and Robbie like D&D so much. You guys really need to watch it.
What's it about?
I don't want to say too much because it would. I feel like it would ruin the allure.
Okay.
It's. I mean,
That's fair. That's fair.
hang on. Do you like 80s movies?
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh. It's gonna be like
Turtles, yeah, man.
I was gonna. Well, I thought I was wearing my.
Was Turtles
Ghostbusters shirt.
91 the movie?
I don't remember. I was very young.
I was very young when that came out. Yeah.
Did you ever watch Freaks and Geeks?
Sounds familiar.
It's a comedy. It was a comedy series in the mid '90s. It was done by Judd Apatow, the guy who did like Knocked Up and all of those big comedy movies in the mid 2000s. But it was about a group of kids growing up in Detroit, going to high school, and there's basically two groups of kids. There's the freaks, who are sort of like, it takes place in the 70s, and it's also set in Detroit, by the way. It takes place in the 70s, and so you think of the freaks as like the burnouts, like the stoner kids,
right?
Kids that would become the skaters in the 90s, right? And then you've got the geeks, who are they're younger. Like it's a brother-sister combo that you're following, and they're younger, but they're into like D&D and computer games and stuff like that. So you get kind of like, it's like this growing up tale of these two sort of like not very popular groups of kids in high school, and you've got a little bit of that same feeling in Stranger Things, because it's very much centered on a group of kids that are sort of misfits in high school, and just this big adventure that they have. And it's really, it embodies a lot of movies like E.T. It embodies the spirit of there was another movie that I can't remember the name of, but a kid finds a spaceship, and the spaceship can talk to him, and it ends up taking him out into space.
Flight of the Navigator.
That's it! Holy shit, I haven't seen that in years! That's it, Flight of the Navigator.
Compliance.
Yes.
I don't think I ever saw that movie.
Buddy.
It is honestly, it embodies a lot of the spirit of those movies, and it also it's got a little bit of Stephen King worked in there too. It's actually got a lot of bit of Stephen King worked in there too. So It and all of that stuff.
They said they're ramping up soon.
Okay.
They said there was a Facebook post that said there was this movie where this kid was in a spaceship, and then my friend said Flight of the Navigator. She's like, oh my god, how did you do that?
Is this like?
It's always Flight of the Navigator.
Is this like your Indian in the cupboard where you're like, I forgot that's a movie?
No, I always know about Flight of the Navigator.
Okay.
That's such a. Is it a good movie?
Was
you know
it
what?
then?
It's. I know of the movie, but I can't actually recall it at all.
I had that I watched Back to the Future again the other day, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I just have to I want to know what it must have been like to see that in '85 when it came out. Like, that movie must have been amazing.
Right? Don't make movies like that no more.
Well, I thought about the scene near the end where he's he looks at his hand as it starts disappearing. I'll bet you that effect was amazing at that point.
Back in the day, that was.
Yeah, I make fun of it. That is probably my all-time favorite movie. I love Back to the Future.
I think Ghostbusters is probably mine.
That is number 2 for me. That's my number 2 all-time favorite. I watched that last night actually. Ghostbusters, because my girlfriend hadn't seen it. We went and saw the new Ghostbusters not horribly long ago. She's like, it was fine. I'm like, yeah, how'd you like it compared to the original one? She's like, I think I've seen the original one, but it was when I was young and I don't remember. I'm like, alright, we're gonna watch Ghostbusters. And we got to the end and she's like, yeah, that was way better.
That's actually really interesting.
For me, I always love examining old effects. I like in the opening scene of Ghostbusters when the librarian's down in the bottom, and
Get her!
well, that too. But the books floating across the shelf, I'm
right?
that was probably a decent effect for that time.
Dude, that was fucking nuts, man.
The little card sliders come out, all the cards flying up in the air, that was a good effect at the time. It's not a horrible effect by today's standards.
What are you talking about? That's a great effect.
Yeah.
All this shit, everything is CG now.
Yeah, get her, and it's a claymation ghost. I'm like, they use claymation. That's amazing. So good. But I was showing her
restriction breeds creativity.
Doesn't it though? I love the scene where Dana gets back to her apartment and that's when the Zulog gets her and possesses her. And I'm just like, hey, you want to see Sigourney Weaver get felt up? Because she's totally about to. She's like, no. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're gonna be distracted by her like screaming and like the giant evil dog getting ready to eat her, but just watch the hand on her chest, cause he's totally feeling her up, and he does. He squeezes her he like squeezes her tits like 3 times. It's hysterical if you go back and watch it.
That was
yeah. I like Zool, motherfucker, Zool.
Hey, you know what? Zool needs to get some action too, bro.
Yeah, apparently, good lord, does he ever? Well, Rick Moranis finally got some action. I am Vince Clortho, the Keymaster. Are you the gatekeeper? Do you, Mr. Tully, do you want some coffee? Do I? Yes, have some. Yes, have some.
Where do these stairs go?
They go up.
They go up. Yeah.
Which floor did she say? The 22nd. Let me know when we hit 18. I'm gonna throw up. That movie is so great. My cousin was kind of annoyed as we were walking out of the new Ghostbusters because like they didn't give them any real like background development. I'm like, do you remember the first Ghostbusters? Because they got none.
Yeah.
Like that movie literally starts with them finding a ghost and getting kicked off campus and going into business as the Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
there's no backstory.
They're scientists, man. What
do you
That's
mean?
their backstory.
Oh, I'm sorry. We find out that Venkman has a degree in both psychology and parapsychology. That's like all we find out about him. Oh, and that Egon collects spores, fungus, and
Spores,
mold.
molds, and fungus.
I butchered that.
You sure did.
Oh,
you
man.
piece of shit.
That was awful. I collect spores, fungus, and mold.
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
That's the one.
Damn, man.
Also, why in the sequel did Annie Potts end up getting together with Rick Moranis? Clearly, she was into Egon in the first movie.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he was, you know.
He's not into it?
No, he collects spores, molds, and fungus, man.
Fair enough. Very true.
You can't compete with that.
No, how do you?
You can't.
Yeah, there's so many good moments in that. Like the scene when Peter is with Dana and Vince Clortho is with Egon, but Ray and Winston are out driving and like doing like, and they're just talking about like the end of the world and like the dead rising from the grave. Like that is actually like such a powerful scene in an '80s comedy.
Yeah.
Like that's a really strong, well put together scene and good writing.
Right?
It's weird to see that in an '80s comedy.
Maybe it is the end of the world because the dead have been rising.
Maybe the reason we've been so busy is the dead are rising from the grave, and he's like you can tell he's like freaked out at that thought. He's like, maybe we'll put on some music.
Yeah.
Like, right, like that's a great scene. I like there's so many things like I never noticed until I was older about that movie. Like when Egon when they catch the Slimer ghost, when they catch their first one.
Yeah.
And the guy like Bill Murray's trying to give him the cost of it. Egon is telling him how much to charge in that scene. He's like got like the 4 up against here for like $4,000, like $1,000 for the extra. He's actually doing this to show, and like Bill Murray like glance over, and he's actually showing him how much he's supposed to charge because Venkman has no idea how much their service costs.
No.
If you watch it, you can see like he's like now for entrapment of the beast, he kind of goes like this, and you can see Egon's like this, and then he's like, and for storage and containment of the beast, and like Egon switches over to 4. Yeah, Egon shows him how much to charge for it in that sequence.
Wow, I was about to rip you a new one for like pretending to like say like just to say something that I obviously already knew. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those moments that like, I had no idea were in that movie until that happened. Like, yeah, it was some video. I think it was actually an Angry Video Game Nerd video where he did like the top like 10 jokes you missed in Ghostbusters or something like that. And I'm like, that was so cool.
How did I miss that video?
Is that right? Oh, that's your points out.
Damn, you know what? How?
Yeah, I liked him when the
There's Charmander somewhere. And Squirtle.
nice. I like it.
And you guys want to doubt the Safari Zone? Go fuck yourself.
Who doubted it?
You.
When? What? When?
Last week, complaining about all the Weedles and Pidgeys. I remember. Elephant never forgets.
I like the scene where Bill Murray meets up with Dana and the other guy who plays in the orchestra, and she like walks over to talk to him, and as she's leaving with the guy, he's just like, "I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you, sir. I'm glad to see you're feeling better. You're still very pale, though." Kind of like insulting him subtly.
I think that was one of the best parts about Bill Murray, is that he would play that sort of like subtle dick.
Yeah, he really is. Throughout the, like, even the opening sequence of the movie, where it says like their lab has like Venkman burn in hell like written in red like on the front of it, and then he's just like even the guy like he's experimenting with the two people on whether or not they have ESP.
Yeah.
And the guy actually gets one of the cards right and he shucks them anyway.
A couple of wavy lines.
Sorry,
it's not your lucky day.
It's like he didn't even look at the card about it. He's just a dick.
Well, to be
You might as
fair,
well get used to that.
To be fair, I do believe it was 3 wavy lines and a couple means 2. So
But he says, is it just some wavy lines? Yeah, it's, oh my god, it's so funny. We were talking about how, again, restriction breeds creativity. You see that a lot in 80s movies.
I think you're right.
We saw that with like the effects that they would use in Ghostbusters. You remember in the opening scene in the library where the Dewey Decimal System like comes out, all the cards start
Yes.
flying.
Oh, yeah,
that was
yeah.
a good effect.
It was
for
a
the
great-
80s.
that was
It's a decent effect for today.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's the thing, is that you didn't have all of these, digital bells and whistles that you could put everything on. Most of those effects had to be done very practically.
Yeah,
And
they were all
also had to
practical
be,
effects.
they had to come in under budget.
yeah.
They had to come in under budget. I mean, like, think about Star Wars. The original Star Wars movies had a shockingly small budget
Yes.
for what they were able to produce in special effects. And that's because a lot of them had just believed in the vision of the movie. They came together, and there were people who didn't get paid what they should have. They didn't get residuals like they should have. I mean, there was a lot of enthusiasm that made the first Star Wars.
My favorite for Star Wars is what they found a way to save money on costumes. In the scene where they go into the bar on the cantina on Mos Eisley,
Yes.
in that scene, they literally went to the leftover wardrobe department in the building next door and just borrowed costumes out of there. That's why all the aliens in there look completely ridiculous.
They look like
one
werewolves.
One of them's like the devil.
Yeah.
Like it's just the devil. And then later had to create like a planet and a cannon for that to exist from. But like they had no money for effects anymore.
Yeah.
So they literally just borrowed costumes from the lot next door to do that.
And well, have you ever heard anyone describe that scene being shot? Because it sounds fucking crazy. Because they were like, you walked into this space and you actually had all of these bizarre creatures around you. The effects were happening in real time.
Nothing's being added in.
Exactly. You really felt like you were walking into an alien bar.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Weird.
you can see pictures from the set where, like, at some point that portion of the set really did feel like a bar. You know what I mean? Like you can see that in the pre-production stills.
Yeah. We were talking about like in the original Back to the Future when Michael J. Fox's hand disappears. What a great effect for '85.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably took like 30 days for that one effect.
It wasn't fast. Sure of that. That's another one where that movie's fun to go back and watch a second time because you're like, you see like all the things that change when he does come back to the future, and you're like, okay, that makes sense now. Like I never figured out like the whole thing about him like running over like the pine tree, or Doc Brown mentioning in the beginning, like he had this crazy idea about growing pine trees, and then in the opening scene, he goes back in time at Twin Pines Mall. But as he leaves the farm, he knocks over one of the pines, and when he comes back, it's called Lone Pine Mall. Like, that's like one of the subtle changes that is made. It's called Lone Pine Mall because he destroyed one of them when he was in the past. I always have loved stories that deal with time travel. Like, when they're done well. Like, obviously, you can really fuck them up, but like that one and like, God. What There's a new game that came out where you can revert time like a few minutes at a time.
Stranger Things.
No, the new game that came out where the girl can revert time. I don't think we talked about it on FEC a few weeks ago.
Hang on. Life is Strange.
Life is Strange. And I think that game dealt with time travel in such a cool way, in like showing that being able to control time, like morally speaking, restricts what you're able to do. When you take away the ability to say, well, how was I supposed to know what was going to happen? You're like, you should have infinite choice, but you find yourself more restricted.
Yeah, if you know what's going to happen, does that mean that you have
An
an obligation to
Yes.
step in?
Exactly.
If
I
you-
thought
if
Life
you're-
is Strange dealt with that idea in such a great way.
I mean,
It was very powerful.
you know how? Oh, okay. What's the most common thing that people say if they could time travel, they would do?
Kill
They would
Hitler?
go back and kill baby Hitler. But the question is, if you're looking at a baby, how do you know that that baby is going to be Hitler? I mean, if you know that if everything is predetermined, well, yeah, now you have an obligation to kill Hitler.
Right.
And how does that change? How does exactly that change from being, and exactly like, how do you know? Like, at that point, you're just killing a baby.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting dilemma with time travel stories.
I agree.
And so many like games or movies
Ignore
don't
it.
even touch it.
Yeah.
And like I thought Life is Strange. Are you gonna play it or have you played it?
No, I don't think I will.
So at one point in Life is Strange, spoilers for Life is Strange. At one
Spoilers.
point, you go back in time because your best friend, when she was young, her dad died in a car accident.
Right.
And you kind of accidentally, you don't purposely go back in time, but you find yourself in the time. It's the day he's in the car accident.
Uh-huh.
And you decide that you're going to save him from being killed in that car accident for your friend.
Sure.
And so you do it, and when you get back to the present time, your best friend is now paralyzed from the neck down.
Okay.
Because she's later involved in another accident that stems from that. And you are left with the decision of, do I go back and fix it again?
I like that a lot, and it reminds me actually of another Stephen King story that they recently had just made into a miniseries. It's a Hulu exclusive. It's called I think it's September 22nd, 55 or something like that. It's like 9/22/55 or something.
All right.
But it's about the Kennedy assassination. Like, it's this guy who finds a portal in time that can transport him back to like 2 years before Kennedy was shot. And the thing is that it's a fixed point in time. So he can come back, right? Like, he can come back to the present, but when he goes back through the portal, he goes back to the same day every time. And then
Kind
if
of
he
Groundhog Day-ish.
and if he goes back through the portal a second time, he resets everything he did the last time he went through. It's a really interesting
So
take.
it's like him trying to like idealize that day, sort of?
Well, at the same time, you're now talking about a 2-year investment to get from that fixed point in time to save Kennedy, right? So now you've got this 2-year investment, you've got all of these actions that you've made, and all of these decisions that you've made in those 2 years. If you fuck something up, and you have to go and reset everything, you reset everything you did.
So, the portal goes back to 2 years before the assassination.
That's right. It's a fixed point in time.
That's brutal. That's very interesting.
It's a fascinating
It comes down to
concept.
like what's good enough almost. Like at what point can I just leave it at that?
That's a central theme of the story.
That's
It's
very cool.
fucking great. It's actually really good. And it's got James Franco in it.
That's how I was feeling by the end of Life is Strange, where I was just like, I thought I was going to have this game where I could just cherry pick everything I wanted to create this ideal world for myself, but the way everything's presented, you realize it's like, to morally have any kind of high ground, there's only one way to do it. There's a couple times where you can't go back and fix it, where her powers aren't strong enough to go back and fix it, and so if you fuck that up, you're too bad. You have to live with those consequences.
Interesting that there's that the game distinguishes between the two.
I can only think of one major point where that happens.
Yeah.
Where like you've been using your power a lot all day, so like it does put a strain. You can see it's putting a strain on her. And by the time you've been using your powers all day, by the time this major event happens, you're just spent.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it and reverse it. You can only like slow things down a little bit, and there's nothing you can do. It's a great moment though. And so then she's like always questioning, like, well, I don't even know how reliable my powers are. So the whole game was really cool and a very fun take on the time travel story.
Yeah, I like that idea. I know Square Enix published that, but did they dev it?
No.
I don't know. You guys think I'm? Do you guys think I'm getting too negative overall about games? I mean, because
I think for some people you will be.
Well, yeah, but again, I don't know that I'm not okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm at the point where I have to embrace all of the criticism that I have about the games industry, because I absolutely can't fake it, and I feel like faking it is disingenuous. It just contributes to this hype culture that we've found ourselves back into, where everything's got to live up to the hype, and if it doesn't, it's considered an across-the-board failure. I mean, really, besides the developer directly lying about some of the features, what is the biggest sin that No Man's Sky commits? It just
as I understand,
it didn't fully deliver.
Right, like as I understand it, like people look at No Man's Sky a lot like the way that you look at The Sims. It's not going to revolutionize anything, but it's a fun game just to waste time in.
And that's fine, but again, I mean, I don't know.
I think a lot of what it'll come down to is like people recognize like you're the loudest voice on the show, so if we have like the others like maintain some hype over it, we really have to get our point out there to try and combat your voice against it. I think that, and that's where it can kind of devolve sometimes.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, you know, do you guys think that I'm alone in that? Like my cynicism is, I'm you know, like that whole idea that no man is an island. But I mean, am I that far out there in my opinion about where game development is right now?
No, well, I mean, the only two times I really spoke up about it, I agreed with you. I don't pre-order games because I've been burned 1,000 times. I can't.
I'm just saying for like an audience to be able to attract an audience, you know, around this stuff. I just feel like this is shit that other outlets don't stop to consider.
I think there is a line that you have to watch out for, because eventually people are just gonna say this guy's just gonna not like everything. Like he won't like. If there's no chance of you liking it,
that's objectively not true. There are games that have come out that I've loved. There are games that I've shown that I can change my opinion about a lot of this stuff.
But we're always going to talk about games before they're out.
Yeah.
So like if like we know like if a trailer comes out like if a trailer comes out and it's good, will you be okay with that? Like as long as you can speak positively about like trailers that are good, that's fine.
But I think I have, and I think the FF15 trailer was great, and I think that it did get me to reinvest some enthusiasm there. But then all of that enthusiasm was spent the minute I heard the voiceovers, the minute that I hear about you know, a delay in the fucking game. And it's not because I want it now, gimme, gimme, gimme. It's because wow, this really is that big of a clusterfuck that it's taken 10 years and 2 months now. Like,
well, not only that, but like the biggest problem was that they had this giant, huge special announcement party for the release day, and then you can't even stick to that. Like, that day should have been locked in stone.
Right.
At that point. Like,
Yeah.
After that long development,
someone needs to have died or something to like necessitate that
to justify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that. I think you're correct in a lot of ways, and I think your cynicism is justified. I just would say, I would caution to watch for the line, and I think you know where the line is when you're getting to be like, where it's like, okay, now it's just kind of bogging the show down, you know, like that feeling? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I would say just watch for that. Like, I don't think you're at all too negative or too too mired in cynicism.
I think, and the thing is I think that there is more of that element out there than we are necessarily tapping into.
I would say this though, like, if we didn't have Nika to counterbalance it, this show would be harder to listen to. Like, Nika counterbalancing it makes it work, but if we didn't have her, we would have to be more careful about how we...
No, I agree. I think that's fair. That's fair. It's interesting. The way, I mean, usually the way that we fall on our opinions is pretty natural. Like, it shakes out pretty...
We've always had a great chemistry as a group.
Yeah.
I mean...
Diversified chemistry.
Absolutely. Always. Yeah. Are we good? Can we call it a day?
Yeah.
Alright, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, one guy, for tuning in. Not you, Sparrow.